Well, hello everyone. The little red dot says it's live. So, how are you? Good to see everyone. Trust you're doing good and I hope everything is going well. So, how was your day today? Hello, Lisa G. Hello, Claudette. How are you? Mark, good to see you. AI, I like that one. Kenneth, good to see you. Well, folks, Monday, let's see, today is the 4th. Wow, the year is going to be gone. So I thought what we might do is kind of get into an introduction. AI everywhere. I, I'll tell you what my routine is. Typically, I get up early, earlier than what most people would think. And I go out and check out the outside and, I may do some stargazing, meditation. It's always a good time when you're out there. And then I like to just to scan the headlines just to see what's going on. And I think I'm going to start keeping a score. That's what I think I'm going to start doing of every time I read another story about AI and the influence that it is having on our lives. And the reason why I think this is so important that we keep it front and center for all of us is a little experiment on our brains. They say 99% of us would go crazy within 3 days in an isolation room. And there is a great channel on YouTube that I would highly recommend. Let me get a chance. When I'm looking at this, well, now I can't find it. Of course, that's how it's going to be. Uh, isn't that the way it is? But I'll try to find the link. Anyway, he went into an isolation cell. It was all white, didn't have anything to keep himself occupied. And it's real interesting, folks, to see what our brains will start doing. They did some experiments and they set an individual up. He was the control, and they had two actors, and so they were in there, and they had this shocking machine. Little thing about the AI. Some of you may have seen the video, and the one guy who's an actor touches it and it shocks him, and the other guy who is the control says, "What happened?" He said, "Well, the bloody thing shocked me." So the guy who is the control guy, he touches it, and yeah, it does. But anyway, long story short, they put him into a room by himself, isolate him for 1 hour, and that's what they told him. And there in the room was the box, the shocking box. It took him less than 2 minutes, the boredom, no stimuli. And he would rather suffer pain than boredom. Now, that's pretty interesting when you start to think about this. So, what I did, and you know what I do. So, let me kind of bring this up for everyone that's in here. Check this out, folks. All right. So, this is a guy, I think he was a psychologist. Anyway, he put this together. Now, when I was going up through the corporate ranks, in my case was marketing and sales. Good Lord. I mean, I can't tell you how many different tests that they always would put us through. And the Briggs-Meyer test. How many of you remember that? Have gone through part of your corporate training. And there's others, back in my day, it was the Xerox school. And all this was to show you what your skill sets were. I find this one very curious, folks. So look where boredom is. Boredom is out here between contempt and remorse and is anchored by loathing. You ever thought about that? When you're bored, you are not in a good place. You're in a very bad place. And look at how you just get around here. So annoyance is between contempt and aggressiveness and is anchored by rage. Wow. And then followed by anger. I just find that really, really interesting. All right. So interest, look at that. Vigilance, and it's between optimism and anticipation. Now, that should tell us something right there, that we should always have something within our interest. All right, let's go on around the wheel, right? Barb, if you're watching or listening, kind of goes in what you had actually did on the cosmic initiation deck. All right, so we get optimism is between optimism and love, and it is serenity anchored by ecstasy. Wow, that's really interesting. And that middle point is joy. I contend, folks, that this is the single one element missing in most of our lives is joy. Yeah. All right. So then we have love and submission. So acceptance is anchored by admiration. And look what's in the in between there, trust. So let's just go back over here to where we start getting into more of the positive aspects. So we have anticipation, which is linked to joy, which is linked to trust. All right. Then we start getting back over here now. So we now have submission and awe. Wow. And look at this apprehension, which is anchored by terror and fear. Doesn't most religion fall into this area between submission and awe? And isn't it interesting that when you look at most of the way that our minds work, and it's the way that we're brought up. I can remember myself as a child, the fear of my father coming home, the apprehension of what I knew await was anchored by terror. Wow, that is really interesting. All right, so let's go through awe and disapproval and look at this. Distraction, but is anchored by amazement. And look at the that balance point, surprise. Wow, this really kind of speaks something to me when you have amazement in here that's anchored by it, right? And look how you're getting in between submission, awe, and disapproval. Wow. That says a lot. All right, then the last one we get into is disapproval and remorse. Pensiveness, and grief is the anchor, which in the in between of that is sadness. So I find this really interesting when you study it, because part of the isolation test, and this was for 3 days, and what this guy put himself through was, wow. I had never thought about solitary confinement as a prisoner being put into, an 8x6 cell. And, that's mental torture is what that is. So we're talking about AI, right? AI knows this. It's the thing about it. It knows how we react. And the fact that we need stimulus for our brains literally the whole time that we're consciously awake. And when you start depriving the brain of that, the brain does some very interesting things. The first thing you will do is that you will create a separate entity. and you will start talking to yourself. Our brains, when faced in isolation, will keep and then make another one of us. And the guy was saying, because he knew that this was on camera, they had the camera in the isolation room. He says what kind of kept him sane initially. The other thing that we begin to find out is that we begin to lose our cognitive ability for time. And the brain will then begin to invent things for you to anchor onto. So if AI knows this, then we got to keep this in the back of the mind as what we are today. But what I thought we would do, I wanted to go back and say, well, who could we really pin this on? Could we pin this on a certain group of individuals that were the catalyst for what is today I think our species has met an enemy that has conquered us. I don't think there's any escape. I know that sounds depressing, but I think eventually it's smarter than us. We don't even know our own brains. I mean, that's what amazes me, is that none of us here, we do not know our brains. And you know what they found? The thing that made most people most fearful about being alone, cut off. And this is really interesting. The thing that they feared the most was that they would have to listen to their own thoughts. And that's kind of interesting, isn't it? So I put together this little presentation, and here is my thesis to you as to where I see the roots of AI. And then when we get finished with this, we'll actually get into a little bit more of the subject matter in current events. So this is a cool chart. I just really think it is. So something happened that no one thought could. And as mankind began to revel in his exuberance of the breakthrough of technology, that man had begun to master the machines, something happened. And it was very subtle. First of all, check these three guys out. In fact, all of this, because of these three guys, are actually using the devices that we're doing today. Moore, Noyce, and Groove, founders of Intel. Without Intel, we would not have computers. We would not have the processing today. These guys absolutely changed the course of humanity. They're the first. Who could argue with me that these two men single-handedly altered the course of humanity? Bill Gates, Paul Allen. I've met them both, sat in, listened to their lectures. Think about it. This began AI. Let's continue. Well, you certainly would have to agree that these two men had just as big of an impact as the first two of the first three. Steve Wozniak, saw him a couple of years ago at a conference. Steve Jobs, when I grew up in Santa Clara, we were literally a half mile apart. So there you go. What these two men did, when I look at Gates and Allen to Jobs and Wozniak, these guys brought the creativity to it. Gates and Allen brought the functionality of it. These guys were the muscle. And again, if there was any chance of deviation of man going back, these two ensured it. Let's go on. This guy. I lived in Austin, had the pleasure of meeting him a number of times. I was on the Austin Software Council, and Michael Dell made a lot of millionaires in Austin. The thing about Michael Dell was this. Michael Dell is the one responsible for JIT, just-in-time inventory. And the amazing thing about his business model was this, and it changed everything in technology and manufacturing. Michael Dell figured it out that he needed suppliers and he needed parts for him to assemble his brand. The problem was the expense of warehousing those components made the price point for the computers unachievable. It was Michael Dell who came up with the idea of we only pay for it when it hits the dock. And so what did he do? Well, the vendors agreed to this. They would keep them out in the trailers. And it was brilliant. So Michael Dell also did something else. Back in the time, there was, Gateway was there. Compact computers. Remember back in the day. Gateway was another one. Because of what Michael Dell did, Michael Dell made it possible for all of us, all around the world, for people of limited economic means to have a computer. So let's go on. How about these two guys? I mean, these two guys changed it all. Larry Page, Sergey Brin. The story is that they met, and I'll think of his name. He actually was the CEO of Intel at the time. I'll think of it here in a second, but met with him in Sunnyvale at the Big Boy. How many of you know where that is? If you do, you know where it's right off the freeway. And ate in that Big Boy. Well, the story goes that they talked, and I'll think of his name. I had it right in the tip of my tongue. Anyway, there was no search engine, guys. Most people don't realize that 1999, we didn't have a search engine. There were a number of companies out there that you could use for that purpose, but good luck on what you actually came up with. These two guys, I would say, think about what they've done now. They created a god. These guys, these two men right here, with $100,000 seed check is what they got. And they changed the world. I don't know, but here's just my opinion. These two guys are probably more singularly responsible for AI than anything else. Now think about it. It's been less than a score. SCORE. Less than 20 years. And look what they've done. They've changed humanity. They've changed the way that we learn. So anyway, how about this guy? Bring me to you later. swear this guy is. Now, as much as Larry and Sergey brought AI into existence, this guy may be, when it's all said and done, ruler of the world. Seriously. He's already the richest man. His ambition, his sights, they're going into the pharmaceutical business. They got more money than the United States government. In fact, all the people I'm showing you here combined represent several $1 trillion. And there's no stopping this guy. I'm just telling you, Amazon will be everywhere. It's already, Alexis is the #1 selling device that's going into homes. And now Google is running to it. And basically it's a horse race between Google and Jeff Bezos here. I don't know who you'd want to bet on. But my point is, where Google would have been expected, Amazon, think about what they're doing. 24/7, they're listening. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. So this guy has contributed to AI in probably ways that we can't even begin to think about. These dudes. We're going to talk a little bit more about these dudes. This is the PayPal Mafia. Folks, the men in this room here are either directly or indirectly, virtually for about 70% of all technology we have today. All the apps. Peter Thiel, Rod, there's just a number of them here. This is PayPal. They brought the digital revolution to the internet, to our currency. We're going to see these guys a little bit more. How about Pierre? eBay. His vision. We were in a meeting in Beaver Creek in 1999 called Executive Mindshare. And it was a number of us, my company, US Creative. We were pioneers. There was no e-commerce then, folks. My company, US Creative, we had the single largest database of creative professionals around the world, had over 450,000 in our database. And back in 1999, that was unheard of. And no one really knew where this was going. But again, look at where it's today. Check these guys out. Met them out South by Southwest, 2008, I believe. Look what they did. There's Jack, Evan, Biz, and Noah. Jack Dorsey, we're going to see him again here in a little bit. But think how these guys changed the way we communicate. When they first were out South by Southwest in their booth, and they were telling us that, and then it was limited. How many characters was it limited to? I think it was limited to 28 characters, 27 characters, something like that. And the app was pretty clumsy because back then in 2006, 2008, right? I think it was 2008. You didn't have smartphones. We were just getting into digital. And look at what these guys have done today. And what Jack has done in the payment industry, phenomenal. Think about these four guys. How much they changed. How much they added to AI. I mean, they changed a whole culture worldwide. Think about this. And now Mark, The other guys, they'll never have to worry about paying the rent. And look where Mark Zuckerberg is today. The next thing for these guys, trust me, is politics. It's going to happen. Told you we're going to talk about Jack Dorsey a little bit more. What Jack has done with Square is remarkable. Jack, I remember the first meeting where he was actually pitching, and their business model was to go after what they call the subprime merchant market. And no one in the payment industry wanted to touch it. And these were what we called the five and dimes. $5 here, $10 here. It was a pain in the ass to get them set up and to get them qualified for a merchant account. And the thing about what Jack did was the fact that he raised $40 million in less than 10 days. Twitter was becoming all the darling. And how they got started was that they basically self-funded themselves in the transaction. And of course, today, Square is headed to become a bank. It's the next thing. Now, Reid Hoffman. Remember Reid? Well, yeah, you do, because he was over there on PayPal. This is LinkedIn's. See how it's all connected? And again, LinkedIn has now become where you want your bio. Again, all of this feeding into AI. How about the medium that we're using right here? Steve Chen. Not just one, but others. Look what YouTube has done. It used to be a fun platform because we were pioneers, exploring the boundaries. And then, we started serving the God that everyone serves. That God is materialism and the almighty buck. But anyway, I digress. So here we go. Now, this added to AI because it's kind of like the endorphins coming into AI, because YouTube is a creative platform, and to a certain extent as well as Facebook. How about this guy? Changing the world. Although they say the collapse of Bitcoin is coming, I tell you, I never understood it when they presented the first time when I was out at Money 2020. And anyway, but this man taking down fiat currencies. Boy, that's a set of cojones on him. All right. So let me just stop it right here before we go into this next section. And give me 1 second. Here we go. So this is where I propose AI started. And now we've got to begin to discuss what is the end game here? Who's going to benefit and profit the most from AI? That's the thing that I am asking myself. Who is actually going to basically have the money bags? AI is about control. That's what it's about. And the question is, control what? Thought? Individuality? I don't know. You see, that's kind of a slave mentality. You can't ever have enough. I just showed you the Titans. And I could have probably put another 6, but I think that everyone would agree I showed a pretty good representation of what and who is responsible. So who's going to profit off of AI? Well, I besides commercialism, I guess the next thing would be governments, right? I mean, if it's about control, then AI gives governments a heck of a leverage over us. So let's get into the second part of this. And because I want to talk about the deep state. Now, I don't know what your opinion is on the deep state. Um, it's one of those rabbit holes that you can go down and good luck ever coming back up. Does it exist? It's one of those things that I guess it's subjective to the observer. But there is a definition for it. A body of people, typically influential members of government agencies or the military, believed to be involved in the secret manipulation or control of government policy. Okay? By that definition, I would say that the deep state exists absolutely. What we're finding out now in the FBI is absolutely, folks, Comey should be arrested immediately. We're finding that they had a mole that was doctoring documents to cover up Hillary Clinton's illegal activity on the emails. What the hell is going on? This validates that there is a government. Do you know that Barack Obama has made publicly the statement that he feels that he is still the president of the United States, that Donald Trump is in there illegally? He's meeting with world leaders, folks. So let's just get into this. What about the deep state? Well, this is the thing that I found. When you look at what happened in 2010 with the passing of the Wall Street Reform Consumer Protection Act, Dodd-Frank, that was a systematic takeover of our financial system. And when you look at how everything has to be run by money, if there is a deep government, another government behind the scenes, because we have a lot of illegal activity by department heads. Eric Holder should be brought up on charges. I mean, this thing gets so bad. But yet, as long as you and I have got our internet and we've got our things to go, well, that's politics and we let it go. I don't know. There's a lot of rumor, speculation on the deep state. Now, AI. Listen, the very first algorithms that they let loose on us, they became psychopaths. Think about it. A freaking algorithm program developed the traits that we would call psychopaths, violent. So, if AI was a part of this, in which we know those programs run these how shall we say, agencies all use computers. And when you start getting like Charles Hugh Smith has done here, it gets weird, folks, real quick. And they talk about us when we're talking about AI. Are you kidding me? Seriously? And this is about the size of it right here. So, number 3, the military. Does the military run the internet and AI? They will be the first ones to cut communications. They will be the first one to cut supply routes. They will be the first one to cut all egress and access. Are they the ones that are sitting behind the veils? Don't know. It seems, though, that there is a agenda that, well, would almost make you feel like it's been contrived. You know, they've tried for the longest time to divide us as a nation. Many would say that we've been divided for the last decade. So if we talk about the military, I find it very interesting how many domestic law enforcement agencies, these are your local police, that are becoming federalized officers. How many police do you see now that wear military camo, military insignia, military garb? We don't have Barney Fife anymore, or Andy of Mayberry. We don't have that. Yeah, it's so. Could this be feeding AI? Number 4, it would definitely appear that humanity is in the crosshairs. Anyway, you look at this, I mean, we seem to be the pawns in this chess set. And I don't know about you, but you know what? If you go down and just want to watch a sports game, you're going to be inundated from the pharmaceutical companies, first of all. When did we lose our freaking minds? You see, this is why the deep state does exist. Who in their right minds would allow pharmaceutical companies to sell their goods and wares to the consumer? You know, the number one problem doctors complain about now is you. You go in and you make your self-diagnosis to your doctor. And then you tell your doctor what drug you want. That's insanity, folks. This is pure insanity. Yeah. I'm going to do a story here and to show you they've already got programs ready to do this for our genetic extinction. And if you keep on hearing about the rumors, you keep on thinking, well, are they really going to do something? So the deep state seems to be everywhere, doesn't it? And this leads us now to our subject matter, AI. It's everywhere. They're making synthetic me's. Yeah. They say that, and we're going to show you, by 2032, you'll be able to free jack yourself. And it may come down to just this. You'll pick out your model and, you know, you'll have a synthetic DNA, synthetic consciousness. You and I, in essence, are AI. That's what I've kind of come to the conclusion, is that it's just that. So I'm back. Hi, guys. So odd, isn't it? Let me just go in the chat room. I'd like to see what everyone is talking about. The neo-Marxist genocidal maniacs. Eric, I would not disagree with you on that at all. But I think you can see what I'm talking about. This thing exists, and it's just one freaky event. I told you, let me get out of here. And I want to show you some things I was telling you about earlier. So I know you can see this. So I told you about the PayPal Mafia. So you look at Peter Thiel, you look at where all these guys are at and what they're now funding and or the CEO. I told you the co-founder. There was Jarrod Karam. Steve, a lot of these guys came from PayPal, folks. Weird, isn't it? And check this one out. This just kind of shows you every one of them, what they walked out with. And all of them, like I said, will never have to work again. And as a result, they went in and invested in other companies, and those companies went public, and it just keeps going on. Here's Twitter. Yeah, I thought it was. It was in 2006. So there's Twitter for you. And here I am. So now I have something I'd like to show you as well, to show you where AI is really at. Check this out, folks. The Wobot. We'll see you now. The rise of chatbot therapy. You see, we think this is a game because that's how it's presented to us. This is fun. This is novel. This is different. And we're so isolated already. We get the idea that technology brings us together, but here is the Weebot. So go and tell your stories. You know, he'll give you great advice. And once you start talking to machines, well, the Wobot will never let you down. You know what I mean? Let's go into this next one. Brain implants to change moods controlled by AI begin human test. This one is supplied by DARPA. All right, so let me just say, the PowerPoint I just put together, AI, military, deep state, I don't know. But the experimental super weapons, what's going on here? And they're already doing these deep implant stimulators, by the way. My wife told me that Parkinson's patients are now getting them. They're finding them to be very effective in not only the control, but also not remission, but being able to get people back to much more control of their bodies. Okay, let's go on. Robots are coming for jobs as many as 800 million worldwide. What are we going to do? I mean, if you got a machine doing your job, I mean, it may be that the construction trades and farming may be the only thing that they won't be able to do. Oh, yeah, they can already do that now, huh? I think this is going to present a problem. I think, you know, when you look down the road, well, here they're projecting a mere 13 years. I don't know. I see a revolution coming. Smartphone addiction creates imbalances in brain. Really? How much more evidence do we need to see what's happening to us? Let's go on. Basically, they're saying that if you've got kids, don't give them a damn smartphone. Good luck with that, right? I can hear parents out there going, yeah, easy for you to say. All right. The Singularity Hub is one that you really should go to. I pull it up here. Check it out. They have some of the best articles that really begin to really explore this thing about AI. I'm running short in time here, but check them out, singularityhub.com. You'll enjoy it. All right. I believe we will attack North Korea. I believe that we got all the assets there. They needed about 4 months, and they got the 4 months they needed. We have all the military assets that we need over there. I read today something around 1,500 aircraft. I mean, I'm just telling you, my money is that we will take this guy out. I don't know what it'll lead to. Men can be allergic to sex. Wow. Yeah. Basically, apparently, after the event, guys are getting sick. And they thought it was a rare phenomenon. Apparently not so rare. You know, I'm glad I grew up in the 70s. Holy crap, hola. Russian and Chinese killer robots set to rule the world and dominate U.S. I'm just not feeling the love. Just not feeling the love. Do you get the idea that they're really trying to push us into something? And you know what? We never talk about the Chinese or the Russians, but they're just as involved in AI as I don't even know what kind of version they have. I don't know. Is it the same version? Just speaks it? All right. How about this? Safe spaces are an answer to the ever more hostile internet. Holy crap. What was it? Back in the 90s, you had to have a safe room. Now we have to have a safe space. But where do you go unless you're in a copper lined room that would block out all the Wi-Fi? And it's Wi-Fi. Don't call it Wi-Fi. It's Wi-Fi. U.S. military agencies invest $100 million in genetic extinction technologies. Now, they're saying here it's going to be used to wipe out certain diseases and pathogens, you know, like malaria and et cetera. I don't know. You know, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of this? Killer bees. How about that worm that's being let loose in the Northeast called, what is that thing called? The Godzilla worm or something? I don't know. Every time you get these jackasses in these labs, something always goes wrong. Plum Island, hello, Lyme, Connecticut. How will humanity react to alien life? Well, there's a lot of people I meet that I swear are aliens. This is one of those things that, you know, now we're finding germs, you know, that are on the outside of the space station. I mean, the fact of the matter is they're already here. That's just my opinion, but it's a funny article. It really is. When I read this, it was all right. Great Netflix sci-fi series coming up. Altered Carbon. You guys, this is going to be a good one. They obviously been listening to my channel and probably Rex's channel and others, because some of the things I'm getting on here, I'm going, what? They had to be listening to YouTube. So apparently this is where you can free jack if you're rich enough, you can literally live forever. You can choose your body. Your consciousness will be all the time digital. You'll have multiple billions of backups, so you can never be deleted. But, and in fact, they say that if you look at space exploration, that really the most efficient way to explore space is through, well, avatars, where you stay safe and sound on your planet, but yet through the avatar, the AI, the robot of you would be able to feel the sensation and you would actually see the same experience. Holy crap, that's God, isn't it? All right, I move on. Future war may depend as much on algorithm as on ammunition. Here we go again. And look how much money they're spending. Man, I'll tell you what, if they had a day where we could actually go and pitch them for funding, they obviously got deep pockets. But anyway, here you go again. Software. Hypersonic weapons. You know, as AI advances, so does everything else. And now apparently we're in a new arms race. And finally coming down to this, seems like Mr. Cook is not only kissing China's ass, also kissing their ring. Oh, well, you know, guess everyone has to do it. And finally, like this is the surprise of all surprises, Facebook and Google leading the internet domination of advertising. Well, you know, if they're leading the advertising, then you know they're leading in the cash. Like any of us are really surprised on seeing this one. Okay, how about that? Told you this is all connected. It's just so weird when you begin to see this. Let me see where we are. Here we are. So better coders will hit their targets quicker, harder, better. See, y'all are getting the same thing I'm getting. Yeah. So that is my thing that for tonight, at least, this is going to be something we've got to keep on top of. I mean, you can't tell me. This is like the Twilight Zone. How many of you know the song by Golden Earring called Twilight Zone? I mean, anyone out there want to pull it up on YouTube, you can see what I'm talking about. So AI everywhere, AI controlling us, AI is in our bedroom, AI is in our bathrooms, AI is in our cars. I mean, you know what? This is going to be one of those weird things. I can see future mothers, let's say 50 years from now, that the kids are going to be so jacked in, right, that the kid won't be speaking anymore, but it's going to be AI channeling through the kid. I mean, this stuff is just getting so weird out there. Mind control. I don't know about you, but I don't like that. I don't like the fact that I got Wi-Fi all around me, but yet my cell phone has got the crappiest service of all. Hello, Verizon. And it's like, but we put up with this. And then I realized that those under, let's say, 15, I don't talk on the phone anyway. It's all the typewriter. And I use that analogy because that's what's happened. We've reverted back to the digital typewriter. You know, goes to show you we really don't want to hear your voice anymore. You know, just text me. We're fundamentally being transformed. And that's just what I'm trying to say. It's bizarre. And, you know, when I realized that I was in the bathtub too, the thing that we have to do is just kind of point this thing out. And listen, I don't like when the fact that so much of our lives now are controlled, listened to, recorded, logged, and it's that old thing, you know, when I was in Christianity, and you always think about the great white throne judgment, that there's this angel here writing everything down. Yeah, it's called Alexa, you know, or Google or Siri. That's what it's called, because you don't need no angel to do it. It's being done to us right now. And I'm fortunate that I lived in a time when you didn't have this around you. By the way, little commentary here. I hear myself say that and I think, who's talking like that? Oh, it's quite something, folks. It really is. It tickles me when I think about it. But in any case, well, uh, I'm just reading. So, hey, I agree with you on that, Claudette. Absolutely. Okay, that's a good conversation. I'd have quit the commentary and jump into the room. I tell you, it is about control. The truth, it's about control of everything we do. Um, when I think about it, so if you've bought a car, particularly in the last 5 years, I didn't know this. I kind of knew this, but you really don't know this, is that all of our cars are actually controlled not by the dealers, of which you would think. Now, the finance companies have the code, but the TSA, those guys, they got the codes. They can stop our cars. So forget the idea of an escape, right? They'll throw the switch. No one's going to be going anywhere. That's control. Everything is control. Even as I'm talking here, every one of our IPs is being logged. I'm telling you, it is the matrix, isn't it? The matrix is here. Yeah. Well, folks, thank you for having a great conversation. Oh, just to let you know. So, Barb DeLong, as she says, everyone should get into your coloring books. And so I got some in. So starting to do the great therapy. Here's another one. So as I start on this, I'll certainly let you know my progress. No critics. No. Listen, I appreciate every one of you. I thank you for joining me tonight. And by the way, I want to say thank you for all the people that send me just some great, great articles. I got a lot of email on the Ark of Gabriel, the Russians. Thorum, who's a good friend over in Norway, brought out a really good point. For that crane to have collapsed, something was either really, really heavy or something else that was just the whole thing behind that. Strange things. Other people have gotten evidence. I think they did find something. That's just me. I'm convinced of it. I think they have gotten something. About 2018, I don't know. Did anyone get kind of a weird feeling? I mean, 2017 was just a suck year. That's all I got to say. I put a positive spin on it. I mean, at least I can say I lived through the experience, right? I mean, better than the alternative. Well, I don't know. We always say that, well, living is better than dying, but we're all dying anyway. And how do we know that it's better than death? I don't know. Just because we won't be here doesn't mean we won't be here, right? I'm just kidding with y'all. Well, I do appreciate it. Thank you again for joining me. I appreciate every one of you. I really do. And y'all are just a great group, It'd be kind of cool to really all get together on something. But hey, we'll just meet here continually. If you have anything you'd like to add, just go ahead and email me. Listen, I try to catch up as much as I can, but for the most part, I will get to it. I promise. All right, folks. Have a great evening. Be safe, be warm, If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, keep cool, and we will talk again. See me on Wednesday over on Jeff's channel. We do the midweek report. And then Friday night, we will have a continuation on this discussion. And that discussion's a broad group of things. All right, folks, all my best to you. Will be kind to yourself and be kind to someone. Do someone an act of kindness that they don't know about. Let's make this season not so much a season about getting gifts, but how about we can do something instead of gifts? Why can't we just do something that really, I don't know, would last with people? We'll think on that one. All right, folks, we'll talk soon. Good night.